there's still this misconception that HIV is a gay disease, and that's one of the lies we tell ourselves.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think there's a lot of misconception. A lot of people still look at HIV, as you said, like a gay disease, and it's again going back to having those simple conversations. It's like if I don't think about it, it's not there. I ignore it, it doesn't exist, and I think that that's the challenge that we're faced with. So HIV does not have a face. It could be the prettiest package ever, and how can you tell? So.
I know. I remember that TLC music video. Don't go chasing waterfalls. I'm just saying. Y'all want to say something?
Yeah, I would just want to add to what you said about introducing the condoms that it does begin with the youth. Because in my culture back at home, there's so much awareness, there's so much education, there's so much talks like this here that it does begin to seep into your mind and it becomes a normal thing to talk about such issues, to talk about condoms, because then it desensitizes the shame you have of introducing such thing. So awareness and education and talks like this here really enforce, taking the right actions and introducing such stuff like condoms into your sex life and talking about HIV and STDs and stuff like that. I think there's a sort of shame attached to HIV, and that has to be brought down by awareness, because deep down it desensitizes the shame to it when everyone's talking about it, when everyone's educated about it, when everyone knows how to properly use a condom and how to request for it properly. That's what I just want to.
But wait, I have a question, and I completely agree with what everyone's saying and everything. But my question is, okay, so it's kind of like a catch-22, because it's like I believe that it should start in the household and the family, and like the way that people are raised, how they basically interact with other people, and how they interact within themselves, and their own self-preservation and such. After this, then I got you. But you were saying how, although you talk to your daughter, you and your daughter are close, or you and your kids are close, and your daughter's about to turn 10 or whatever, that it still feels weird.
From my part, from her part.
Oh, yeah, I mean for her part. Well, but it still kind of feels weird, even for when you talk to your,
the same way it would feel weird for me to talk to my mother.
Mom.
Yes.
So how do we change that? Do we become more?
Lisa's gonna take over on this one.
Feel uncomfortable and do it anyway.
I was really fortunate. My mom was really open. I don't remember ever having the talk. I just always remember it being a talk. So I never had that. She was always really open. We didn't have the kind of issues about nudity, although that changes when you become a certain age and you're dealing with your own intimacy. You deal with your own insecurities, but I didn't have that at home. So I don't have that with my daughter. I think I'm fortunate that I have a daughter, so we don't have to deal with the nudity issues. I don't know how I'd have to deal with it if it was a boy, but I feel like at some point, even though it may be uncomfortable, you kind of have to bite the bullet and do it anyway, because it's kind of your responsibility. I feel like because I work in an HIV day treatment program, and because my daughter's been around people who are HIV infected since she was 4, I thank my community every day, because there'll be one less prejudiced, stigmatized person in the world, because all the people that she knows and likes are gay and or infected or straight and infected, or they're all infected. So there's no shame, there's no stigma around that. But even if I'm uncomfortable or she's uncomfortable, I kind of have to shove it down her throat, even if it's in small doses, because it would be negligent on my part not to. Exactly. And part of it is I say you have the advantage that you have somebody who is open and is willing not only to answer your questions, but to give you information, and you're shutting down, you're going to have to listen at some point. Yeah. And like the young lady was saying, at some point it's going to seep in, if not by sheer osmosis. A drop of water will make a dent in a rock over time. So if you keep on saying the same thing over and over, eventually something will seep in.
Yeah. I think that Lisa and people that work in this kind of environment that are more aware and that are more comfortable with these conversations, like us, there's a difference, but what I'm saying is that there's people in general that do not have these conversations with their parents,
or with their
children,
friends,
or with anyone in their home. A lot of children are left to get this information from schools, and the school system, which is a whole different forum. The school system it's not necessarily, I think, doing, we're making breakthroughs, right? Now we have a new health curriculum that's been introduced into the schools. But what I'm saying in general, children are going to get this information from a peer. They are going to ask someone in their peer group before they're going to ask their parents. Ideally, it would be the other way around. And they're going to get this information from school. I think oftentimes we need to reinforce what we're saying. We need to say it in the home. And we need to also, even older generations talking about this, and older generations, like if I'm in my 20s and I'm talking to my teenage friends, they will talk to the younger generation. So it's sort of like a communal conversation that I think that needs to continuously happen, so that, you know, people are not left in the dark and like, okay, now I'm hearing about it through, you know, a friend, and I'm an older woman and I've never really known what to ask or what to do.
We will wear condom, but let's do oral sex. Let's do it without the condom. That's so often times. And I think it's still not
Higher
safe,
risk.
right?
Yeah.
It's still high risk. So, and many girls does know, and they think, yes, it's okay. He says we're gonna have sex the normal, the traditional way with the condom. But he said, okay, just a little bit. Let's just do oral sex without the condom.
A lot of
Just
people
little
still
bit.
think oral
And
sex
girls
is not
think
sex.
It's okay. Yes.
Even our president, remember, former president, the oral sex was not sex.
Oh Lord.
So like, sorry, I had a heart palpitation. So basically what you're, I did. So what you're asking is like, how do we instruct or get the word out?
Yeah, I think that's another issue, how it can be transmitted, and girl will think, yes, I had the same sex. I had a condom on, but yeah, the oral part of it was without the condom. And that's a guy will insist a lot on it. He said, like, I don't feel it if you put a condom on.
So what would you do if a guy was to say that? If a guy or a woman, because both sexes are,
But
you know,
the
infected.
chance is much less, right? If you the oral sex.
Oh, I don't know. I'm a lady. I don't do such things.
So in some of our educational workshops, I teach a sexual health class for some of the sex workers in the group. And it isn't always realistic to expect that someone is going to wear a condom during oral sex. I mean, first of all, we have no cultural recognition of the fact that people can do that, right? You barely even see condoms in movies, period.
Have you
Much
seen
less.
Dark Shadows?
Oh no.
They use the condom.
No, they don't use the condom, but you need to see it.
Oh.
Fellatio was performed.
Oh Lord.
But not with a condom, right?
But
No
not with
condom
a-
discussion
But he
there.
was dead. He was a vampire. So does that still count? What if they're like a vampire? I'm just kidding.
Let's keep the discussion to
No, go ahead. I'm sorry, Lisa.
No, it's alright.
I mean, Sarah, sorry.
circumstances.
So, I mean, I may come from a slightly different perspective because I do come from a strong harm reduction standpoint, and that I believe, you meet people where they're at and you meet people with what they can go with. And I will say that using lubrication during any sexual act, particularly silicone lubrication that won't evaporate or dry up or when exposed to water dissolve, is a good way to prevent STI transmission. It's not as effective as using a condom, but it is a harm reduction way of preventing STI transmission, particularly STIs that are transmitted skin to skin, because it creates a layer around the skin. So that is something that folks can do if folks think that they're in a situation where performing oral sex with a condom isn't an option, or just don't perform oral sex. Yeah.
Wait,
I mean,
so you
those would
said
be
use
the
a
two.
silicone-based lubricant?
Yes.
Oh, with flavor? Does it give
I
it flavor?
have never seen a silicone lube with flavor, but I'm sure they exist. Do they? Anybody in the audience?
Does anyone know? if there's a
uh,
silicone?
I'm thinking of
Sarah,
like
do you know there's a silicone base?
I'm thinking of
It's
like
a rum
Eros,
base.
the black, the lube that comes in the black container, the one that's sort of oily, right? Because the oil it'll stay on the skin, and in general, lubrication makes condoms work better, right? So lubrication inside and outside of a condom makes a condom work better, and silicone lubricant is a good way to put a barrier there if you're not putting an actual latex or polyurethane barrier there.
I think it's important to talk about what constitutes safer sex, because there's so many folks who do, Lord, there's a little bit of rubbing in certain places, and what constitutes safer sex. I think is something that people should know about too. And I think there's misconceptions about how still I think in this day and age about how the HIV is transmitted.